Well, I am C.G. Nagaraj, retired headmaster of DM School, Mysuru. Today, we are going to have some information and discussion, if possible, on a disease called cancer. This is given in your textbook for class 12 in chapter 8, and the lesson is 8.4 cancer. We need to understand the meaning of this particular word cancer and how it produces. What is cancer? This word is very common to most of us, but still we may not be able to define or tell what cancer is. Now, cancer refers to uncontrolled growth of abnormal cells. Then, what are abnormal cells? Normally, when cells grow old, they are destroyed in the body. But due to some unfortunately uncontrolled mechanisms, old cells will not die, and those cells are called abnormal cells, and these cells will not die, but they start producing more number of cells, and that kind of cells that is produced by old cells are called cancer cells, and they're abnormal in nature. And cancer is one of the most dangerous and deadly diseases of human beings, and it is a major cause of death all over the globe. Now, cancer not only is caused by our own body, but also some viruses called oncogenic viruses. There are quite a number of them, oncogenic viruses. At least 7 of them are well known to human beings. Maybe we will talk about this a little later on. The mechanism that underlies in the development of cancer or oncogenic transformation of cells. When you say oncogenic transformation of cells, it means old cells will lose or will not be controlled by regulatory mechanism, and they become into cancerous cells. And its treatment and control have been some of the most intense areas of research in the biology and medicine today. Cell growth in our body, that is the normal cell growth in our body, is controlled by various regulatory systems. If this regulatory system do not work for old cells, then such cells will become cancerous cells. So we'll try to know a little more in detail about the cancerous cells. As I just discussed in the previous PPT, breakdown of the regulatory mechanisms in the body, especially in the cells, will produce the cancerous cells. Now, normal cells have a capacity, what's called contact inhibition. Contact inhibition refers to the ability of the cells by which, if it comes in contact with any other cell, it will inhibit that particular cell to come in touch, and nothing is caused to the cells. So that contact inhibition is lost in the cancerous cells because these cells are old cells. And when once this contact inhibition is lost by the old cells, they produce mass of cells called tumors. This mass of cells, which may not do any function, will be drawing nutrients from the normal cells, and normal cells are deprived of the nutrients, and these cells start growing and they become what is called tumors. We can see in the right side a image of a human being where the chin area has become little more what you call thick, and they look like the cancerous. Well, the second one talks about uh, ex- the CT scanning taken for this person, and it indicates there is some kind of a tissue over there. Now, while I was talking about the tissue, the benign tumor is one type of a tissue growth. Now, benign refers to stay in the same particular site. These cancerous cells will stay, they will not move, but they keep on growing. And one such benign tumor is shown in the diagram given to you. There are two images of the CT scanning. There is an arrow mark in that indicating there is a cancerous cells in the brain. That's a benign tumor. And when sometimes the cells, that is the cancerous cells, some of them are called neoplastic cells, or what you call tumor cells. They are just newborn cells. They will acquire a kind of a growth pattern in which they start growing across the tissues. They attack the tissue adjacent to that. That means the neoplastic cells keep moving away from the site of the benign tumor, and then they attack the surrounding area, and that kind of a thing happens. Then the cancerous tissues spread over various parts. That's called the malign tumor. Tumor refers to mass of cells which are not controlled by any mechanism. And this happens by a process called metastasis. Metastasis refers to the movement of the cells. When the cancer cells break down from the cancerous tissue and they move away or travel away from the benign area or the site where the cancer is produced, they move with the help of blood circulation or lymph system, and they attack different parts, and that is called metastasis. So cancer can be in one site, particular site, as it happens sometimes in the genital parts. It might happen to breast area, it might happen in the lungs, it might happen in the brain, it might happen in kidney, in liver, in stomach. Any part of the body can be attacked by the cancer, and such cancers are called benign cancers. But if they start growing endlessly and they start migrating from site to different parts, then it becomes malignant tumor. That will be serious case, and that requires immediate attention of the medical experts. For that matter, any tumor suspected will have to be attended by the doctor. Briefly, we learned about the cancer. Now let us try to know the causes of cancer. What causes cancer in our body? One important thing is transformation of normal cells into cancerous or neoplastic cells. How does it happen? As I told you earlier, the older cells will not die, will not be destroyed, because cells might have lost that capacity. Regulatory capacity has been lost. So such old cells become abnormal cells, and these abnormal cells might develop into neoplastic cells, or it might be induced by some virus particles. There are certain viruses, they may induce the growth of neoplastic cells, maybe physical damage to the DNA material or chemical damage to the DNA material or by biological agents. Some of these things may attack the regulatory system of the cellular growth and metabolism of the cells, and that might happen at the genetic level. When that happens, then normal cells will transform into carnivo cancer producing cells, Example would be carcinoma is one such a thing. It happens in the epithelial tissues of the skin and other areas. When carcinoma develops, that might get into benign, or it might become what is the called malignant tumor. All these things are possible. Now, carcinogens are agents. Carcinogens refers to the agents which may be internal or from the external agents that will produce the cells to become the abnormal cells, or what we call cancerous cells. The word cancerous cells means cells which cannot be controlled by any cellular mechanism are called cancerous cells. Now, oncogenic viruses are those. Oncogenic viruses refers to cancer-producing viruses. Quite a number of them has been researched now. Some of them maybe we will discuss in the next PPT if possible. This is just a diagrammatic explanation of how cell division that is normal towards left side, and the other one towards the right side is the cancer cell division. In the normal cell division, when once a cell divides into two in the somatic cells, and they will start growing into, they get into cell cycle, they grow, and again they produce two cells. That is the normal cycle. But in the cancerous cell cycle, there is nothing like that. Cells keep on dividing without undergoing any cell cycle. That means there is no growth. Simply they keep on dividing and dividing and dividing, and thus produce a big mass of cells called the tumor. So tumor cells are the major cause of the cancers. A brief explanation about the viral genes. Viral genes are also called oncogenes. There are several types of genes have been identified now. CONC is one kind of oncogene. Like that, there are several genes identified in the normal cells, which when activated under certain conditions could lead to oncogenic transformational cell. See, that means to say our own cells DNA has certain genes which can become oncogenes. That means when those genes which are not expressed in our genetic system, some of them are not expressed, but some of those genes which are not expressed, if a stimulation happens to them, if they are activated, then those genes may become what we call oncogenes, and this will be the work of certain viruses when they attack. I told you even the last class also that the sarcoma virus, when it attacks, its viral RNA becomes the viral DNA, and that will attack the normal cellular DNA. Like that, any of the viral DNA may convert the regular genetic material into oncogenetic material, and thus the cause of the or the beginning of the abnormal cell division takes place endlessly and brings in what we call the cancer. Now we will have a brief idea about how cancer is detected and treatment is possible. Cancer is detected by taking a small piece of tissue from the cancerous area or suspected area, and that its biopsy is done. Histopathological studies are made, and the tissue and the blood and bone marrow are tested, and they confirm that there is the cancerous growth in that area. That is one of the important and most way of testing the or detecting the cancer by biopsy. Techniques like radiography, that is use of X-rays, CT scanning called computerized tomography means giving the shape of the particular thing what we are studying. MRI, that is magnetic resonance imaging, are very useful uh, technological tools in the medical science today. They can help us to detect the internal organs and find out cancer is present or not. Techniques also by means of molecular biology also will help us in detecting the cancer. Treatment will be very different. We will discuss the treatment in the next PPT possibly. Here are some images of the brain taken from the CT scanning and MRI scanning, both perhaps. What you see, the white area, the that area is abnormal, and that may be the region where tumors or cancer cells are growing. So like this, they may identify the they compare it to the normal brain and they find out there is some growth of the tissue that is indicated by different techniques, and different colors are given, and different say materials are used to find out the tissue abnormal growth in the different parts of the body. Here the image I have shown is to find out whether the brain has any cancer or not. But in this image indicates there is some kind of a disturbance in the regular brain or the normal brain. Only doctors and highly specialized people who can interpret the scan images will help. But you and I only can look at, but there is some abnormality in the brain. That much we can say. Beyond that, we will not be able to say anything on that. This is just a diagrammatic explanation of how cell division, that is normal towards left side, and the other one towards the right side is the cancer cell division. In the normal cell division, when once a cell divides into two, in the somatic cells, and they will start growing into, they get into cell cycle, they grow, and again they produce two cells. That is the normal cycle. But in the cancerous cell cycle, there is nothing like that. Cells keep on dividing without undergoing any cell cycle. That means there is no growth. Simply they keep on dividing and dividing and dividing, and thus produce a big mass of cells called the tumor. So tumor cells are the major cause of the cancers. I'm quite happy to acknowledge my gratefulness to Common Creative Images, from where I have taken a few images. I used the NCERT textbook as the basis of my talk. I googled many things about cancer and YouTube for taking my video. Thanks all of you. Read your textbook clearly. Try to answer some 3 or 4 questions given in the textbook. Good luck. Thank you.